Alrighty guys, what is going on? Welcome back to the channel. Today's video we talk about flexible dieting, and if you are in the diet culture, if you're in, if you try to lose fat, if you're counting calories, if you've been on a diet, you're trying to lose weight your whole life, whatever it is, you've probably heard something along the lines of, I want to be a flexible dieter. I want to be able to be flexible with my diet and still lose fat. And if you follow anybody on social media or whatever it is, if you hear celebrities, they talk about being a flexible dieter, right? And what does that actually mean though? Because a lot of the times when people say like, oh, I want to be a flexible dieter, they automatically think like, okay, yeah, I want to eat whatever the fuck I want and still be able to lose weight. And that's just, unfortunately, that's not the fucking case. So today we're gonna dive into what is flexible dieting? What does that mean in the sense of you and how you can fit it into your life, and what does that mean? Because honestly, an end goal is to more or less be this flexible dieter, because that way you don't have to track calories every day. You don't have to do keto every single day. You don't have to do fasting every single day. Like, you don't have to do these things. But how do you get there, and what does that actually mean? So we're gonna go into that. We'll also go into strategies about how you can actually implement this flexible dieting into your diet, because there are ways you can, yes, eat the foods you wanna eat and still lose fat, but again, it's all gonna come back to what is that. So that's what the video is gonna be today. We're gonna talk about what is it actually, and then we're gonna go ahead and talk about plans and kind of ideas and strategies you can use to then implement it into your diet yourself, into your fat loss journey. So getting into what is flexible dieting. Flexible dieting is not eating Twinkies and pizza all day long and losing fat. That's not what it means. Flexible dieting is not like, okay, every single weekend I'm gonna go binge on anything I wanna have, and just because I'm okay Monday through Friday, then I'm totally fucking cool. That is not flexible dieting. Flexible dieting is incorporating some food that you enjoy into your life in moderation. There is nothing in excess, there's nothing in binging, there's nothing like, yeah, I'll just eat whatever the fuck I want and call myself a flexible dieter. That's not what flexible dieting is. Flexible dieting is fitting nutrition into your life, not fitting your life into nutrition, because that's two totally different things, guys. It's how can I fit my nutrition into my lifestyle, whether that be, hey, I do like to go out on the weekends, whether that be, hey, my nights are very busy because of my kids' schedule, whether that be, hey, I get up really fucking early for work. Like, whatever that may mean for you, how can you then fit your nutrition into your life? Because that's one big thing that people sometimes can't get down, and they keep trying to hammer these things that they can't possibly stick to or adhere to or follow because it doesn't fit into their lives. Like, if you're doing keto because you just want to lose weight but it doesn't fit into your lifestyle, and you like to go out on Friday nights and have drinks, and you like to do this and that, but you keep trying to shove it down your throat that this is the only way to lose fat, I need to do keto, well, it's not going to work, guys, and you're sure as fuck not going to be a flexible dieter. So that's what I want you to start thinking about as far as flexible dieting is. It's not, you eat whatever the fuck you want to eat and still lose fat, and it's not that you can do whatever the fuck you want to do and still lose fat. Like, there are still guidelines. There are still rules. There are still things you follow. You still have to, quote unquote, eat healthy, which we'll talk about later, but you still have to follow some sort of guidelines to be this flexible dieter. And it's almost a skill. Just like you driving your car is a skill you've learned. Riding a bicycle, if you're an accountant, if you're a CPA, you have a skill. If you're a basketball player, you have a skill. Like, these are all skills, and becoming a flexible dieter is a skill that you learn through tracking calories. Like myself, for example, I've tracked calories almost every single day for 3 years straight, back when I was younger. And doing that, I can look at a piece of food and say, okay, that's about 4 ounces of chicken. I can look at a half a cup of rice and say, oh, that's about a half a cup of rice. I can look at the bread, like, I can do these things, but that's only because I have the skill now to do it. Like, I pretty much know what I need to eat to maintain my weight, to lose weight, to gain weight, whatever it is. Of course, I'm probably still gonna be tracking calories just so I can be extra sure, because that's the type of person that I am, but I now have this skill of knowing, like, okay, if I eat around this much food, I'm gonna maintain my weight. If I eat around this much food, I'll lose fat. If I eat around this much food, I'll gain muscle. Like, so I can do that, but that's a skill that I've learned through years of practicing and trying and doing and having strict guidelines and having things I stick to. And like, that's one thing I also want you to realize is You don't become a flexible dieter overnight. You don't start practicing flexible dieting overnight. That's not how this works. You have to somehow get to that skill. If everybody when they turned 15 was handed a driver's license and said, here you go fucking drive, I mean, it'd be shittier than it is right now, and it's already pretty shitty right now. So like, can you even imagine what would happen then? So like, it is a skill that you have to attain through hard-ass work. There is nothing about being a flexible dieter. Nothing is easier. There is nothing that comes easy with it. There's nothing that says, okay, yeah, I can have whatever the fuck I want to have and still, I can call myself a flexible dieter. Like, there is nothing that comes along with this that is easier. So if you're looking to be a flexible dieter because it's easier, then you're fucking wrong and you gotta look somewhere else because that's not what this is. Note, I don't think I've ever said this is easy, do this, but that's beside the point. So flexible dieting, it's a skill. You have to be able to learn it, and that's where tracking calories comes in. That's where, tracking your macros comes in. That's where having some set guidelines. That's where having habits comes in. Like, okay, I eat protein every single meal. I try to eat within, every 3 to 4 hours. I try to limit myself when I go out to eat. I'll order half instead of the whole thing. Like, you have to start thinking like, how can I get to this point, this end goal? Because most people's end goal is they don't want to track calories every single day. They don't want to track their macros. They don't want to do these things, and that's a great goal to have. But just realize that the only people who get here, despite what they may tell you, they track calories every single day for 3 years straight. They track their macros every single day for 6 months straight. Like they've done the skill and they've put in the work to then get that skill. So that is what I'll say about that. And again, fitting your nutrition into your life, not revolving your life around nutrition. Because if you want to go out on a Friday night, but you are not confident in how you can then do that and still lose fat, your life is going to fucking suck. You're not going to enjoy the process. You're not going to enjoy what you're doing. If you don't enjoy what you're doing, you're not going to adhere to it. If you don't adhere to it, you're not going to see results. If you don't see results, then you feel like shit because then you think you messed up. You feel like you didn't do something right. You can't do it. Well, then I can't do this. I can't lose fat. Okay, I'm doomed. And it just starts this cycle of just feeling like crap about yourself. And that's not the case at all because you keep thinking that you can't do it because you can't stick to something. Well, you have to find out what works. And you being super, super, super strict and rigid and trying to do this keto or this fasting, okay, if you go out to dinner on a Friday night but you can't eat past 6 p.m., well then when you go out to eat on a Friday night at 8 p.m. with your friends and you can't have anything, you're gonna be like, well, screw this. I'm not doing this anymore. Screw this. And then you're not going to adhere, and then all those things are going to happen we just talked about. So flexible dieting is fitting your nutrition around your life, not the other way around. Because people who do the other way around, it's not consistent. You can't stick to it. You can't build sustainable long-term habits with it. Because if you did, everybody would do it, but you just can't build sustainable long-term habits by trying to build your life around your nutrition. It's not possible. And yes, I'm not saying that you shouldn't be disciplined, you shouldn't be consistent, you shouldn't be determined, you shouldn't have to make sacrifices. Like, of course, those things. But if at the end of the day you are sacrificing your entire life around your nutrition, then there is something wrong and it's not going to last. Just for lack of better terms, it's not going to last. So that is what I want you to think about. Think about, one last thing I'll say about it is you should be able to have your favorite meals or foods or things without guilt or shame. You should not feel guilty when you go out and you have some bread. You should not feel guilty when you go out and have some ice cream. You shouldn't feel guilty when these things happen because we're going to talk about this later in the clean eating, but you shouldn't feel guilty when you go out and have a slice of pizza because it's not a bad thing. You didn't do something bad. You didn't mess up. You didn't go off the wagon. Like you didn't do these things because you're practicing being a flexible dieter. And I'm not saying that, yeah, just because you're a flexible dieter, you can go out and eat whatever the hell you want to eat. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, though, if you provide yourself some guidelines, you will be able to have these things you enjoy and still lose fat and still see progress. And we're going to talk about how right now. The first one is the 80-20 rule or the 90-10 rule. They're the same thing. We'll talk about it in a minute, but they're the same thing just in different aspects. The 80-20 rule is 80% of your diet is whole nutrient-dense foods, right? You're having, You're having your lean proteins every single meal. You're having your whole grain carbs. You're having your rice. You're having your sweet potatoes. You're having those things. You're having your healthy fats. You're having avocados. You're having eggs. You're having natural peanut butter. Those kind of things. You're sticking to less processed, more whole nutrient dense foods. Did it walk on the earth, fly in the sky, swim in the ocean, or was it grown from the ground? Any one of those things, that is mainly what your diet should be composed of. Now, the other 20% can kind of be whatever the fuck you want. And I say that because I kind of mean it in the sense that, okay, so let's talk about it. If you have, for easy numbers, 3 meals a day, 7 days a week, 21 meals, right? If you have 21 meals and you take 20% of that, that's roughly coming about to about 4. So that means 4 meals a week, you can kind of have whatever you want. And you shouldn't feel guilt from it. You shouldn't feel like you're doing something bad. You shouldn't feel like you're going off track. You shouldn't feel like you're going off the wagon. Like, you shouldn't feel guilty from having those 3 or 4 meals a week that you say, okay, I'm following this program. I'm doing the 80-20 rule. I'm able to have, about 3 or 4 meals a week where I can kind of have what I enjoy. I can have the ice cream. I can have the burger. I can have whatever it is. And you won't feel guilty about having that said food because it's within your guidelines. And if it's within your guidelines and you can do that, well, then you're not going to feel guilty, but you'll also stick to it. Because telling somebody, hey, you love that thing? Yeah, it's gone forever. They're going to be like, what are you talking about? Is this real life? So if you can then say, hey, okay, that's okay. We're going to try to make 80% of your diet whole nutrient-dense foods, and the 20% you can still have that cheeseburger. You can still have the pizza or the ice cream or the drinks or whatever it is. You can still do these things. We're just going to work on moderation. And that's exactly what we talked about here is what is flexible dieting. It's not overindulging. It's not basing your entire diet, your entire food list of these foods. It's, okay, you can still have it. We're not telling you not to have it. We're just going to work on moderation. And it's not going to be a perfect thing. It's not going to be like, okay, you can only have 4 meals a week and you can only have these foods and you can only do this. You might have 5 some week. It is going to happen, but the more you can work on, okay, this is doable. This is okay. I can work with this. This can be within my boundaries, within my limits. I can try to, because I want to change. If you don't want to change, nothing's going to happen. I want to change. I want to get healthier. I want to lose fat. I want to be able to fit in my jeans, feel comfortable in a bathing suit, whatever it is. I want to do these things. So I will have to make sacrifices. But I want to be able to stick to it for the long term. So, yes, I can stick to an 80-20 rule where I try to base I try to base most of my calories and and all this around nutrient-dense whole foods, but I can still have some wiggle room. I can still have some leeway. I can still enjoy the things I like to enjoy in moderation. And that is one of the biggest steps in flexible dieting and becoming a flexible dieter is how can you base the macro of your diet around nutrient-dense whole foods, healthy foods, we'll talk about later, healthy foods, while still saying, okay, I can still have the things I enjoy in moderation, and I will be able to stick to this. And if you're able to stick to it, I don't care what the plan is. If you're able to stick to a plan, you will see results. And that is one reason why we say, okay, 20% of your diet, whatever the hell you want, 4 meals a week, and you will be able to then kind of say, okay, this is doable. I can do this. I can follow this without losing my fucking mind, right? So one thing we'll talk about 90-10. 90-10, same exact thing. You're just sacrificing a bit more and going a bit strict. And what I just said made it sound like you have to, it's almost like a negative thing because I said restrict a bit more and be more strict, whatever I said. It's not. It could be for people who say, okay, I really want to get my health in check. I really, really want to focus on eating less processed foods. I really want to focus on having less bread when I go out to eat. I really want to focus on having less ice cream. I want to focus on more nutrient-dense whole foods. And that's a great thing. There's nothing wrong with that. That's an amazing thing. That's what I try to do. That's an amazing goal to have. So it's not a bad thing if you go to 90-10. And that's just the same thing. 90% of your foods should be based off, nutrient-dense whole foods. Swam, flew, walk, and grew. Yeah, ooh, that rhymed. So that's the same thing. It's just 90-10. 90% of your diet, nutrient-dense whole foods, 10% kind of laxative, whatever the hell you want, right? So that's the same thing. And again, that's for people who, if you're already at a low body fat percentage or you want to kind of tighten things up a bit, that is probably going to be where you're going to have to go, because you're going to have to sacrifice a bit more if you want to lose those extra 5 pounds. You're going to have to sacrifice a bit more if you really want to see those last final changes. And I'm not saying that you have to see those last final changes. The thing is, people come up to me, they're like, well, I still have this. And I'm like, what? Where? I don't even see it. But they're like, I still have this. How the hell do I do that? I'm like, okay, you can't spot reduce. You can't just do a bunch of crunches and it'll go away. You will have to sacrifice going out on Friday nights with your family and having, this meal. You won't be able to have this food when you go out to eat with your family. You'll have to sacrifice a bit more. And they're like, well, I'm not doing that. That's absurd. I'm like, okay, well, the last 5 pounds doesn't actually matter that much, does it? And they're like, no, not if it makes me that miserable. Well, then okay. Like, this is one huge thing that I want people to think about is, are those last 5 pounds really worth it to you? And I did a podcast with the great Jordan Syed about this, and it's like, is it really worth sacrificing what you're gonna have to sacrifice to get those last 5 pounds off, those last 3 pounds off? Like, is it really worth it? Because you are going to have to sacrifice a bit more. That just is what it is. You're going to have to sacrifice going out to eat and eating some restaurant foods because you want that last 5 pounds gone. You're going to have to sacrifice eating those good desserts that you like to eat. You're going to have to sacrifice these things if you want those extra 5 pounds gone. And sometimes it's just not worth it, man. Like, are those 5 pounds really worth it to make you that much more miserable because you can't have your favorite foods because you really want to lose those 5 pounds that bad? I don't think so. It's really something to think about, because 9 times out of 10, when I tell people that, I'm like, hey, yeah, you can lose it, but you gotta do this, this, and this. Like, that would make me miserable. And I'm like, okay, so why do you want to do it then? And they kind of think like, okay, I guess it's really not that big of a deal. Let me focus on my strength. Let me focus on my workouts. Let me focus on my sleep. Let me focus on my mental health. Like, you will start to realize, okay, it's really just not that big of a deal. So that's one of the things about the random side rant. I don't know where that came from, but that right there is the 80-20 and 90-10 rule. And one last thing I want to say before I move on from it is, with anything, you can abuse it, right? So some people look at this and say, okay, well, it's 7 days a week, 20% of that, a day and a half. Okay, so for a day and a half, that's 20% of my total week, so I can eat whatever the fuck I want for a day and a half. That's not right. Stop being a jackass. Like, there are ways to try to work around this and abuse it. Just like anything, you can't do that. That's not right, because that's not what this is meant for. This is meant for moderation. This is meant for building good habits. This is not meant for you to say, how can I now find my, I did the same exact thing in school. I was like, how the hell can I get my way around this so I don't have to do this project or this homework or go to class this day? Like, that's what I did, so I know it's what you're about to do. Don't try to find a way around this, because there isn't any. This is meant here for a reason. I'm telling you this for a reason. This is what I have seen worked with multiple clients. So just think that this is kind of a great guideline to start, and it will kind of get you rolling and get those better habits started. Because people tell me all the time, I want to start better habits. I don't like what I'm doing right now. I don't like that I go out to eat and I have no consciousness of what I'm eating, and I end up eating 1,000 calories at dinner when I was only supposed to have 400. I don't like that. And I'm like, okay, start the 80-20 rule. Start the 90-10 rule. Like, start to try to build these habits, but not rip everything down all at once. Because if you try to rip everything down all at once, it's not going to work, man. You're not going to follow. You might follow it for a week. You might follow it for a month, but not for the rest of your life. So slowly but surely, implement these things and try to get that down, because trying to abuse it by saying, okay, 20% of 7 days is a day and a half, so I'll eat whatever the hell I want for a day and a half. I'll have a day and a half of a cheat day. Do it. Let me know how it works for you, because it ain't going to fucking work. So that's one thing, 80-20, 90-10 rule. The next one is going to be, it's simple, man, but it's just planning ahead. Being a flexible dieter, practicing flexible dieting is, like we kind of talked about, it's like if you want to go out to eat with your friends and you want to have some foods, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying don't do that. I'm not saying that should be shamed on or frowned upon or bad or anything, but you have to plan for it. And that's one great thing about practicing flexible dieting and being a flexible dieter, is you can plan ahead and still do these things. If you know that night you're going out to eat with your friends and you know you're probably going to have a bit more calories than normal, you're not going to be able to weigh everything, you're not going to be able to measure everything out, have your meals, cook it in whatever oil you cook it in, like, you're not going to be able to do your normal routine. If you know that, then breakfast and lunch, maybe just scale back a bit, because you know that you're going to have the chips when you go out. You know you really want a fucking burger that night. So why don't you plan for that? And planning for that would look like, if you normally have 4 eggs, a cup of oatmeal, and a banana at breakfast, maybe go 3 eggs, maybe go half a cup of oatmeal, maybe go half a banana. That right there is already cutting your calories in half, but not in half, but you get what I mean. You're cutting your calories, so then you're saving those calories for dinner. Because when dinner comes, you'll have eaten less that day because you cut those calories in the beginning, and it's nothing crazy. You'll probably still be full, you'll probably still have energy, you'll probably still do great things. Like, it's not gonna be the end of the world. But cutting back just that breakfast will save some calories for that night ahead that you can then use for dinner and be a flexible dieter, because you can then say, hey, okay, I have 800 calories left. I normally only have 400 calories left. That's double the calories. I can then eat this. I can then eat my favorite dessert. I can then have a drink. I can then do these things and still stay within my calorie limit because I'm planning ahead for it. And you're planning ahead, and you also won't feel guilty. If you go out to eat with your friends, you should be having fun, not feeling guilty for fucking eating food, right? So it's like, if you know that you planned ahead, well then shit, you're in a great fucking spot. And I'm not saying like you can go crazy and do whatever the hell you want, but if you know you planned ahead, you can then enjoy that time with your friends. You can enjoy that time with your family. You can not have to be so stuck up about how many calories is this? Oh my God, I'm gonna go over my calories. You already set yourself up for a good spot. You put yourself in a good place to succeed and still stay within your guidelines. That right there is what flexible dieting is about, is you can stick to your guidelines still and not feel guilty about it, and not feel ashamed, and not feel like you did something wrong. You didn't do anything wrong because that day you planned ahead, so you're able to stick to your calories at night and still stick to your plan and still see results while having those drinks, while having that burger, while having that scoop of ice cream, whatever it is. You can still do that, be a flexible dieter, and still see results. So that is one great tool, and that goes for anything. If you have a kid's soccer game, if you gotta go to the car dealership, if you gotta do this, you gotta do that, whatever it is, you can plan ahead. And yes, it will take some effort from you. I'm not saying that willy-nilly, whatever, like it will take some effort from you. You have to think about it. Like but it amazes me how many people are like, I don't wanna do that. I'm like, okay, well, first of all, you're not a child, so you're gonna do it. But second of all, like, then you don't want it that bad. You don't really give a shit that bad about it. Because if you did, you wouldn't mind taking 4 minutes to think about what you're gonna do that night. Like, it's not that serious, guys. Change is hard, I understand. But like, just thinking about what you're doing that day, you should be doing that anyway, but just think about what you're doing that day so you can plan ahead to be successful, to reach your goals, to then feel better about yourself because you reach your goals. I think that's worth it. You tell me, but I think that's worth it. So the last thing we're gonna talk about, you have to redefine your definition of clean eating. And this is gonna cause trouble, but it's not about I said this before, there are no good or bad foods. That's not a real thing. It's calories in versus calories out. That's what's going to matter whether you gain weight, lose weight, or maintain. That is what's going to matter. And if you truly understood that, okay, I know that it's calories in versus calories out. So if I'm taking in less calories than I'm putting out, I'm going to lose fat no matter what. If you knew that was actually the case, you wouldn't feel guilty when you have a cheeseburger, but you stay within your calories, so you know that calories are king. So if you stay within your calories, you're going to lose the weight. You wouldn't feel guilty when you had that scoop of ice cream and you say, okay, well, I still stay within my calories and I'm still going to lose fat, so I don't feel like shit. Like, if you truly knew that, you would redefine what clean eating is. Now, we know calories in versus calories out. You have to be in a calorie deficit to lose fat. We know that. But are there things that make you have more energy? Yes. Are there things that make you digest foods better? Yes. Make you sleep better? Yes. Make you have better workout performance? Yes, yes, yes. All these things. Again, like I said in the beginning, I'm not saying eat Twinkies and pizza and still lose fat and feel great and be healthy. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you shouldn't feel guilty and you shouldn't feel like, well, I'm not eating just plain chicken and broccoli, so I'm not eating clean, I'm not eating healthy. The fuck? No, like that's not true, because A, calories in versus calories out, but B, like, sometimes pizza's good. Sometimes burgers are good. Like those things, sometimes you want those things. So if you redefine what clean eating actually is, you're not going to feel bad when you still hit your calories, but have a cheeseburger that night. That will make you feel bad because you know you hit your calories, but we know that there's no good and bad foods. So if there's no good and bad foods, well then that kind of, all the boundaries are then gone. It's kind of like a weight lifted off your shoulders because it's like, okay, well, I hit my calories. I didn't gain weight. I don't feel like shit. Like I didn't fuck everything up. Like, okay, I feel good. Let's keep going. And that right there, guys, that right there is huge because that last part, okay, let me do it again. Yeah, I can do that again. All right, let's keep going. That right there, that's huge because that builds consistency. And consistency is what, I always say this, it's what's going to make you see results. If you can't get a plan that you are consistent to, it's not going to matter what you do. You're not going to be able to see change. Yeah, you might see change for a month or 3 months or 6 months. You might. But long term, actually changing your life habits, actually changing the way your brain thinks, if you can't stick to something consistently, it's not going to happen. And that's just bottom line. So clean eating, stop labeling foods good or bad. There are no good or bad foods. I will say this till my ears pop off. There's no good or bad foods. And the more you can understand that, the more you will then incorporate flexible dieting into your life because you know as long as you plan for the day, that you can have your favorite food at night. You can have, you can even, like we just said with the 80-20 rule, you can have these foods, you can have these cheat meals, these cheat foods, whatever it is, but they won't even be cheat meals. They won't even be cheat foods because A, as long as you stick to your calories in versus calories out, that's all that matters, but B, if you stick to your 80-20 rule, well then you're in your guidelines. You're not cheating anything, you're actually following it perfectly because you're having your third meal of the week where it was a cheat meal. But it's not even a cheat meal because you stay within your guidelines. So it's a perfect meal. It's just like any other meal. And that's what something is, you need to get to a point in your life, and I'm not saying it's easy. It's not gonna happen next week. It's not gonna happen next month. Not gonna happen 6 months from now. It's gonna take time. But getting to a point in your life where you say, okay, my Saturday night meal where I had a cheeseburger with fries and a shake, that meal is the same meal as your chicken and broccoli and salad and avocado. Those two things are the same exact fucking thing. And that's important because going back to this point, there's no good or bad foods. There's nothing that you feel like you're cheating on or you're going off track to get, or you're like, it's almost like you're cheating the system to eat. Like there's none of that. It's just that stick to your plan, stick to your calories, stick to your 80-20 rule, 90-10 rule, and you're good. And the more you can do that, the more you can think about your Saturday night meal is the same thing as your Wednesday night meal. Once you get to that point, and you can do that through flexible dieting, once you can get there, then your possibilities are endless because there will be nothing stopping you from being consistent. And if there's nothing stopping you from being consistent, man, you are going to see really, really good results. So, guys, I really hope this helped. I could honestly talk about this a lot more. So if you want another video, if you have a question, if you have something you want to add, if you have anything, please feel free to reach out to me. I would love to talk about it again. I'd love to do like a Q&A podcast. I'd love to do whatever. I would love to do more on this because, again, this is kind of the end goal. This is kind of what you want to do. You don't want to track calories every day. You don't want to do these things every day. So if you can get to this point in this, well, then you're going to be great. So if you have anything, please leave a comment below. Reach out, let me know, email me, DM me, whatever it is. Please feel free to reach out. I do enjoy interacting with you guys. Again, I say this before, but like somebody asked me again, like, no, I don't get paid to do these videos. I don't get paid to do this podcast. I don't get paid to put out things on Instagram. Literally put out all free things on these platforms. I don't get paid to do any of it. I'm doing it because I want to help you. I'm doing it because I care. I'm doing it because I have seen how it can actually change somebody's life. And once you see that, you really want to do it again and again and again. And I'm not just impacting you, I'm impacting your spouse, your kids, the person you go to the gym with, your cousin. You're not just impacting one person, you're impacting many people. So if I can keep doing this and keep helping you guys, I really appreciate it. But just let me know the more I can do for you, because that's what I'm here to do. This is not, I don't get paid to do any of this. I want to do this. So please feel free to reach out to me, guys. Thank you so much for watching, listening, and I appreciate it. See you guys next time.